Let's talk about some lights. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. What's up? I recently got some lights sent to me by the people over at Zhiyun or Zhiyun. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but they are a lighting company, but they are formerly, and what I know them as, a gimbal company. They make a lot of gimbals and stuff, but they're trying their hand in lighting, I guess. And they were kind of sending me over some lights, as well as like every other influencer on the planet. I've seen Zhiyun absolutely blowing up in the last few weeks. I've seen their new releases on basically every single creator that I follows page. A lot of tech influencers are talking about it, and rightfully so. They make some really cool looking lights, and they were also kind of just sending me over a few to try out. Now, they're not the newest lights they've released. I actually just released some new ones, which are really cool, but these are some they've had out for a little bit longer. They were just, I was a little late to reply on the email, so I didn't get them until now. But let's go ahead and talk about them. Let's do a little unboxing, talk about what comes with the lights, and I'm going to show you guys some photos I was able to take with them, because I'm looking at these lights from a photography standpoint, not a video standpoint. I know I've been doing a lot more video lately, but I basically just use these mostly for photo, and I got some really cool stuff with them, so make sure you stick around until the end so you guys can actually see these lights in action and see the photos I was able to take. I promise you're not going to want to miss that, because the photos are really cool. Matter of fact, let me show you a quick snippet of some pics I was able to take with these, and I'll show you guys the BTS and stuff like that when we get to that part of the video. Everything will be in the description below if you want to skip to a specific part. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into these lights. So the two lights that I got sent are a 40 watt little pocket light and a 100 watt portable tube light. These are both really good lights, but oh damn, my dog's here. I'm recording, so just letting you know. So the two lights that I got sent by Zhiyun are the W40 pocket LED light, and the other light that I got sent is the F100C. Both these lights were sent to me at the same time, so I'm going to just review them at the same time. So go ahead and talk about what comes in each of their boxes. They are pretty simple lights, so they don't really come with too much, but let's go ahead and open them up. Anyways, let's go ahead and start with the W40, which comes in a very simple box, not much to it, basically just the light itself and a USB-C cable. The design of the light itself is really simple. It just basically swivels. There's a part that you can attach it to a tripod, and there's your USB-C port so you can charge it. And then it also just has two knobs, which are analog knobs, and these are the knobs you're going to be using to change the CCT temperature as well as the brightness. And then there's also an indicator to let you know how much battery life you have left. But because they are analog dials, there is like a hard on and off switch to power this thing on and off. And that's the only hard switch that there is, which is a little bit of a negative thing that I'll touch on a little bit later, but really cool design nonetheless. And I really like it. I think it's a cool pocket light. Out of all the pocket lights I have, this is one of the cooler looking ones, and it does what it is supposed to do. It's a pocket light. Not much else to be said. Let's go ahead and talk about the F100C. So the F100C is probably my favorite of these two, and actually my favorite tube light I've ever received, if I can consider this a tube light. And that's because it comes with some goodies like the barn door, the grid, and the diffusion sheet, which is cool because my biggest thing that I don't like about tube lights is that they typically don't come with any modifiers, and if they do, they're not really that well made. This whole system works together very well. I ended up really liking how this light works with the modifiers. You don't actually need to use any of the modifiers. They're all detachable, but everything fits together in its carrying case, and everything just works together seamlessly, which is awesome. Of course, the C stands for combo, so it does both daylight and RGB lighting, but the RGB lighting isn't as bright as the CCT because it doesn't have as much space on the lighting portion of the front diode. The other things that come included with the F100C are the power brick and a USB-C cable, along with the instructions, but the light's fairly easy to use, so I don't think you'll actually even need to read it. So the first thing right off the bat is with the W40, the two analog dials on it are really annoying because you don't actually know where you are in the range that it can spin to. What I mean by this is there are markings on the dial for its brightness level, but you don't actually know exactly what percentage you're at. Same thing with the CCT. There are markings on the dial to let you roughly guess where you are in the spectrum, but there's no hard stops to let you actually dial in to say 5600 Kelvin, for example. And because they are free floating, if you accidentally bump it, you're gonna change the CCT value without actually knowing, and that might actually mess up your filming or your photos. You accidentally bump it, which I did a few times, it's gonna change and you're not gonna really notice until you're editing, which kind of sucks. I wish they would have incorporated a hard stop on any of the adjustable knobs, but they didn't, which I think is just kind of like a make or break situation for me. I don't really see myself using this light for more than like a backup light or like a hair light. And in those situations, I guess you wouldn't really be bumping into them. But it is something to note is that this light's analog dials, although seem cool, I think are just completely impractical. And I hope in the future models, they at least add like maybe like a digital screen or something to let you know where your CCT value is and your brightness level is, or just get rid of the analog dials completely. But the F100C, on the other hand, I actually really ended up liking. It's really bright, it's really powerful, and the modifiers actually allow me to use it as a light, not just like a tube light. So the modifiers that I used mainly were the barn doors, because I love barn doors, and the grid. I didn't actually use the soft diffusion sheet, but I'm sure it would work as it is intended to. But mostly I was using the barn door, and the results I got from it were actually really, really good. I like the barn doors because they allow you to kind of dial in the exact amount of exposure you want on whoever you're shooting or whatever you're shooting. And it just gives you more control and finer control than something like a dish would, or just like a fully exposed LED light. The grid does kind of do the same thing, but because this is like such a small light to begin with, when I did use a grid, it significantly reduced the total output. And because this light isn't that bright in RGB mode, I didn't really find a use for it. I was mainly using the RGB mode when I was shooting photos with it, and the RGB mode already is like 50, not even, maybe probably like 30 to 50% as bright as the full CCT mode is. And putting the grid on is just going to reduce the brightness even more. So if you are planning on using this in RGB mode, I do not recommend using the grid, because you're just basically going to get like zero output from this thing, unfortunately. I think the color mode on this light is really good if you need something in a pinch. However, I don't think that this is going to be replacing any of my color lights I have anytime soon. It's actually just going to be used mostly in the CCT, just because, again, it's not that bright in color mode, and it was quickly getting overpowered by even the W40 in like a very low setting, just because the color mode is not that bright, which kind of sucks. But I think in a pinch, it'll get the job done. And that's not to say that this light isn't worth taking wherever you want to take it. I just would recommend using this mostly in CCT lighting. When you do use it in CCT lighting, it is really bright. It has a 100% mode, and then it has a 100% max mode. And when you put it in the 100% max mode, it does something behind the scenes that just kind of like kicks up the power production a little bit more. I think it probably like 120%. And you can definitely tell the difference between just 100% and 100% max. But the one thing you do need to know is that if you do plan on using this for like video or something, it does kick on the fans when you are using it in the 100% max mode, which kind of sucks because they are pretty loud. But I don't see myself using it in 100% max mode anyways. But when I was testing how bright it actually was, it does get pretty bright. And here's some footage showing you guys just how bright it gets in an empty field at night, completely pitch dark, and it was illuminating a ton of light. And I was actually kind of impressed at how bright this little guy was in its CCT mode and not in its RGB mode. But as you guys saw, when used in a photo environment, you can get some really cool results using just these two lights. Now, would I recommend using these in a studio environment? Probably not. I feel like these lights are more for like on the go, or just to be used as like secondary lights, not primary lights like the way that I use them. But I was still able to get some really good results. And if you want some lights that do full RGB, do CCT, and are portable, these might be something to look into. However, I don't see these replacing any of your dedicated COB lights anytime soon, or any of your dedicated RGB panels anytime soon. Either a travel version of those lights or a secondary light to the lights that you already have. At the end of the day, if you guys are looking for a tube light or a wand style light, I definitely would recommend the F100C. I think it's a really solid light. I'm actually planning on using this for a long time. But if you are looking for a pocket light, I don't think the W40 is the way to go, just because those dials are such a turn off in my opinion. The fact that you can accidentally bump it and not know that you completely switch settings can just ruin an entire shoot, and I just don't think it's worth it. I think there are better lights, better pocket lights on the market, in my honest opinion. I do still plan on using it. It's just I have other pocket lights that I would definitely use. Before I would use the W40 by Zhiyun. That's just my opinion. Take it for what it is. But regardless, thank you, Zhiyun, for sending me these lights. I really appreciate them. And I think that the design of them are really, really cool. And I do also like the other lights that they have been producing. I've seen them all over the internet. And hopefully I can get my hands on those as well and give you guys a review on those lights. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave the video with that. If you guys have any questions on these lights, leave them in the comment section below. Both of these lights will be linked in the description below if you guys want to go and check these out. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you follow me on social media so you guys can stay up to date with my photos, videos, and all things creative. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. See ya.